So good morning. This is the Courage Action Hour, and really happy to be here with all of you, and know that just being here in the morning to set your intentions takes courage. So we've all been courageous today already, and just wonder if there's something specific that you would like to have a conversation around in the time that we have for masterminding. Um, I'll open the floor to any of you to see if you have something you'd like support in or something to share with us that will help us to be more courageous.
So I could share when you were asking the question, something that I thought of was last night. My husband and I got to go out for dinner with a group of ladies and a couple other of their husbands, and there was a shift in, we were on a bus. Okay, so we were riding on a bus, all going to the same place to go to dinner, and the person that I was sitting across from got up and moved on the bus. And then so everyone that was around me was quiet. My husband was in a seat kitty corner from me because it's a school bus, they're small seats. So we were spread out to be comfortable, and he was playing on his phone, and like everyone that was around me was either like quiet on the way home or on their phones. And I was feeling like, okay, I don't want to pull out my phone and be on my phone. And I wanted to like have conversation, but the person I was originally talking to moved. So it was like this awkward moment where everyone around me is on their phones and my husband was on his phone doing his own thing. And I was like, why doesn't he just come up here and talk to me? Like he can see. And I would look back and he could see that I was by myself. I wasn't on my phone. Like I was intentionally sitting, waiting to like figure out what I was going to do. And I had that feeling of like, oh, why doesn't he know to come up here and talk to me? We're supposed to be on a date right now, like having those negative thoughts about like, well, why doesn't he just do that? So then I was like, okay, the courage part is that I texted him. I pulled up my phone instead of being like, get up here. But I texted him and asked the question, would you like to move up here and talk with me? And he did. But, right before that, I was just sitting there like, why doesn't he just move up here? Like, why is he not doing this? Or why doesn't anyone else get off their damn phone and talk to me? And like, I'm in my head about that. And I was like, well, why don't I ask the question? Or why don't I invite him to, come up here? Because if later it would normally, right, like that kind of thing would happen. And the old Becky would be like, all pissy with him when we got home and be like, I was by myself, you didn't come and talk to me, like, and just blame him and kind of misplace that, right? My feeling of like loneliness or whatever that was, that like I was like, nobody's talking to me. I don't always like to be the like one that starts conversations. So the courage to ask a question, to start a conversation or open the door for that was something that came to mind that I've experienced last night.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome example of changing the environment by changing your mindset. You just made a conscious decision to ask for what you wanted without any, you eliminated the pissiness and gravitated to the connection. And that's what you wanted. Awesome. Angela, you were going to say something.
Oh, I'm just nodding.
Oh, okay. I saw that you were opened your mic, so I thought maybe.
No, I may not have meant to do that.
Well, that's okay. Yeah.
Really releasing expectations. Kelly put in the chat, releasing expectations.
Yeah, and creating a new neural pathway, right? When I want something, I ask for it. And that takes courage because you don't know what the results are going to be, right? You're stepping out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Right? Because I was in that moment where I was like in my head going, well, why is this and why is this? I was like, well, what is my need. My need was that I wanted to have connection. I wanted to talk to people. I didn't want to pull out my phone and be connected to online. I wanted human connection live. That's why I was at this event and doing this thing in the first place. So I really think that like figuring out, a lot of the times we don't think about what our need is.
Mhm.
And like, so I'll just say like this book that Kelly has recommended many times, I went and got it, and I've been doing that every single day, and it really is teaching me and helping me remember to figure out like what I need and then ask for it. So I think that's been really
Connected,
helpful.
aren't we? Yeah.
For sure. And I love that you're implementing what you're learning. And you know, what you're having is a silent contract, right? And you broke that silent contract by asking for what you needed and not expecting him to be able to read your mind. Right. So that's a huge proactive behavior that you took for yourself. And I hope you acknowledged yourself for it.
I will in my next hour with my study that I have on my list to do.
Yeah, that's an amazing, an amazing example. So thank you for sharing that. And Kelly, thank you for your clarity on the strategies that she was using that we preach and we try to practice.
Yeah, I love that. And I wouldn't have even had, I probably wouldn't have, I'll just point that out. Like I probably wouldn't have acknowledged myself for that, because in talking about it, I realized like, oh, I was just in my head about it. And then I made the decision to ask the question. So I did do that, but I wouldn't have known like how much that's a growth thing. That's a thing that I've grown to do. That's not a normal thing. That's something I'm practicing.
Yeah.
And there's
Building the
having the
muscle.
space. So thank you for having the courage space this morning, Terry, and Foxy for showing up to point that out too, because I probably wouldn't have recognized how much that's an improvement.
Yeah,
to the old me.
that's another example of how we're stronger together, right? It's for Kelly and I, acknowledgments is a natural internal thing. We do it because we practice it long enough that the muscle is really strong. And so helping you to see that, those incremental steps, those little steps, and that wasn't a little step, that was a big step, but those steps, when you acknowledge them, it plants them internally. And then the next time it's going to come, it will be more natural.
Yeah. And it gives it weight.
Yeah.
When you acknowledge it and you write it down, it gives it weight. So you remember it easier. Hey, I did this last time, or hey, this is an alternative. And I mean, there's still sometimes where I'm like, Jay knows that I want him to spend time with me. Like, why is he in his room? Why is he doing this? And we've had the conversation, right? But it's still a silent contract because he can't read my mind as much as I would like him to.
Yeah, and Nicole and Angela, we're doing a little free workshop on March 9th on this tool that we're talking about right now, which is acknowledgements, and how to use that to propel your growth forward and build that muscle of recognizing how you're growing and giving yourself that positive input. So come join us. We can talk more about acknowledgement. Kelly can put it in the chat right now, because you can register with a QR code. But it's complimentary, and we love sharing that tool. So come join us.
Yeah, I can message you both the registration link.
Okay. And Nicole, did you get your intention done?
I did do the Q&A, and